Welcome everyone to our Farming Simulator 19 gameplay series. So I'm very excited to get this particular series started because, as you might have seen, I've done a couple of videos already about Farming Simulator 19. I did one video about getting started where we purchase land and place buildings, that kind of thing. And then I did another one specifically on horses, a guide to horses, how they work, and all of that. And those two videos work perfectly because that's exactly how I want to start our gameplay series. We're going to start a farm and we're going to have a lot of fun in a very relaxed atmosphere. You're going to see me make a lot of mistakes in here. You're going to see me do a lot of things that are not the most efficient way of doing them. So just get ready for that. Some of that is by design, and sometimes it's simply because I don't know any better. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I've cleared out all of my same games. I've done a few things in testing, but I've gotten rid of all of that, so we're ready for save game location number 1. We'll double click there, and we're going to be using the farm manager mode. And so we're going to start out with, it says substantial funds, which the funds will look large on the screen, but they won't last very long whenever you start to do things like purchase land and lay down buildings. So we're going to select farm manager, and we're going to be using the American Ravenport map. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this guy, mostly because this is a bare bones minimum character creation screen. I mean, there's just not a whole lot to do here. So we're going to leave this guy as is. And you can see I've got two mods here. Now, the Mahindra Retriever is a mod that came with it upon purchase. That was a pre-release bonus to the game. And then I've got a spreader here for a solid fertilizer that we may or may not need, but Giants went ahead and released this as a mod here within the last day or so. So I went ahead and picked it up, and we'll have it in the game just in case we need it, because with the game being so new, there's so many different screens, and in particular, the store front that we have has been changed around quite a bit in where things are, so I'm not sure where everything is located. But for me, that's a big part of the fun, is figuring all this stuff out as we go along. So we're going to let the map go ahead and get loaded up. And of course, we're going to start out on the Ravenport map in the sort of the bottom right-hand corner, the southeastern corner of the map. And basically because that's where the game would like for us to set down our roots initially. But for us, that's not really what we're interested in. But before we can even get started with any of that, a few things we need to do first. And first thing we're going to do is hit escape and take a look at where we are on the map. So we're here in the bottom right hand corner. Again, we've got 3 fields immediately next to us, 3 fairly small fields, and then a slightly larger field that is around this, what would be called a starter farm area. So a lot of area to place buildings, silos, storage, that kind of thing around this particular area. Very scenic area with the waterfall over in this corner, but that's not what we're going to be doing. If you saw the horse guide video that I did, I want to be up here. And the reason is simple. Let's go ahead and let's get rid of some of this stuff right off the top. I'm going to keep oats, and we are going to add grass in here. And of course, that's going to add a whole lot of green area around the map. But most specifically, we know that field 1 is already sown with grass, and field 3 is already sown with oats. Field 2, we're also going to have, this is where we're going to place our buildings to get started. So it really doesn't matter to me what's on this particular field. We're simply going to harvest what's on this field, and then once we're done with that, we'll start placing our buildings. So we got everything we need here for our horse farm. So let's go ahead and take a look at these lands. We're going to start with field number 2. And you can see we've got $1.25 million, which is really nice, but we're going to be spending most of that on land here to get started. So let's go ahead and buy this plot of land. Then we're going to buy the one immediately next to it that includes field 3. Okay, we're going to start there. Field 1 is also one that we want. That'll cost us $313,000, but I want to watch our money. We definitely want to get to this one. We're going to need that. And I also want to get to this area of land, but you can, again, see that it's going to cost us quite a bit of money. So now we need to come back out, and again, just look how beautiful this area is. I like the idea of having some smaller fields to get started on, but again, it just really doesn't fit with what we're going to be doing for right now, at least in this series. But there is quite a bit of area to build over here, and then again, you got that nice waterfall coming through the mill. Very nice and picturesque indeed. All right, so let's come back out to our map, and we're actually going to head over to the shop. So we're going to click on the shop toward the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, and we're going to visit there. And thankfully, the update that the developers released a day or so ago really helped me out, because before I would come up to this area in the store and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't open up the menu. The R key did not work. Same thing over here with the bank and so on. So it was a big problem. But now it works, and boy, am I happy about that. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to pick up a harvester so that we can take this guy up and get him started. Now, we have $638,000. We are going to, at the beginning, lease all of our equipment. And the reason I'm doing that is simple. I have sort of some steps that I want us to follow as we move through the gameplay. The first thing I want us to do is get out of debt. Then once we get out of debt, then I want us to start slowly purchasing our own equipment. So me leasing this equipment isn't about trying to save money, or it's a more efficient way of doing it. It's not really about any of that. It's because we can lease this equipment for relatively small amounts of money, particularly up front as well as per day, and still be perfectly okay. So let's go ahead. I think we're going to start out with something basic. Nothing really extravagant here. I would like to use the Massey Ferguson 7347, but I'll wait on that one. That is a bit more than I want to spend, and I want to start out with just some basic equipment. So let's get the New Holland TX32. Go ahead and double click on that. No options to speak of here. We're simply going to lease it, and it's going to cost us $8,000 up front, and then you can see per operating hour and per day are going to be those numbers. Let's go ahead and lease this. Now we're going to need to go and pick up a header for this equipment, which means we need to go over to the equipment tab and down to header. So there's a lot going on here. So it's going to take me a while to learn just exactly where everything is. But the header tab, and of course we're going to pick up the New Holland header for our TX32. Let's go ahead, double click there, and same thing, lease. And again, $2,500 is not all that much to get us started. All right, so let's go ahead and back our way out. And now that we're back out to the world, you can see our equipment that we've leased right there. But I also want to come in and let's take a look at a few of these options. For one thing, I want to turn this time scale to real time for now. What I plan on doing is keeping this on real time for most of the time that we're doing the work. And then once we get done with all the work for the day, then I will simply speed up the time scale. But I want to keep it on real time as much as possible. I'm going to turn the traffic off. And let's see, most of this I'm going to leave alone. We're going to have our helpers. We're going to be using helpers extensively. Plant growth, we want that on fast. No plant withering. I'm not going to get involved in that. We're not going to mess with that. Crop destruction, I'm going to leave on, and that is certainly going to catch me out getting used to the crop destruction. Periodic plowing, I'm okay with that. Lime required, that's going to be a new one. I'm going to have to see how we need to work with the lime, what equipment we need and all that. And then weeds, we'll leave that on as well. But what this stuff is going to mean for us early on, particularly with the plowing, the lime, and the weeds, is that we're going to need equipment for those things, and we're simply not going to have what we need up front. So we're going to be looking at some reduced yields for a little while. But for me, that's all part of the fun of the game. And then eventually we'll get to where we can actually do all of these things and get our yields increased over a period of time. So we've done, I think, everything we need to do there. Let's come over to the general settings, and I think we're okay. I've already swapped over to the US dollar and miles instead of kilometers. We're going to leave hectares as the unit. And okay, I think we're in good shape there. Let's go ahead and back out. And we are going to hop in to our new equipment. So we've got our New Holland TX32 is ready for us to attach this header. And then we're going to head up to our new land. All right, so I'm going to hit the 3 key, which is the cruise control for me here on the keyboard and mouse. So we've turned off the traffic through here, just trying to save some CPU cycles long term. Look at that, I've already hit a sign. Thankfully, that really doesn't do a whole lot in the game, other than give you a little bit of fun along the way. But we've turned off the traffic, just trying to save some CPU. If you were with me in the gameplay that we did for Farming Sim 17, then you'll know that I use the AI extensively, particularly once we get more mods going. Course play is something I live by. So anything I can do to save CPU cycles, we will be interested in going forward. So it's roughly, if I look in the top right hand corner, it's roughly 9 o'clock in the morning. So we've got plenty of daylight to work with. So our plan here at the very beginning, this is going to be just trying to get some basic stuff set up. We're going to need some basic equipment. Of course, the harvester is part of that. And then we're going to need to pick up a tractor, as well as some basic tools like a trailer and a sower, cultivator, that kind of stuff. We're going to need to pick up some of those basics, and that's just going to take a little bit of time here at the very beginning, particularly because we're only going 15 miles an hour. It takes a while to get to the top of the map. If there is a definite downside to purchasing at the very top of the map when the store itself is near the bottom, then this is it. It's the travel times that you have to endure whenever you purchase new equipment, or in our case, at the brand new game. But it does give us a chance to see some of the beautiful parts of this map. I do enjoy the map itself. My only criticism is really that nothing is flat on here. So anytime you try to build, it is going to cost you quite a bit of money in terrain deformation in order to flatten the land and actually place buildings. But other than that, it's a very nice looking map, and I'm looking forward to getting this series started and seeing how many of these fields we can actually work on a regular basis. All right, so we're coming up to a bridge here. Now this is where it gets a little bit touchy with some of the wider headers that you have on some of the other combines. We're gonna get to a point where we would probably, if we can't raise them up high enough to get over these barriers, then we would probably have to use the trailer and carry them that way. All right, so just out ahead of us here is going to be the railroad tracks, and then on the other side of that will be our fields. So we've got our 2 fields here to start off with. Let's go to the interior camera, the cockpit view. Not a whole lot you can see in here right now, especially with that header in the way. Not a whole lot of sound here as well. Okay, we'll come back out to the outside view. Another thing I'm going to have to remind myself of is I generally just like to go straight ahead and sort of jump my way across those railroad tracks, but I'm going to try to get better about not doing that. But we'll see how it goes. If I'm in a hurry, then it's entirely likely that I will do just that. Now, one thing I will not do is follow that road all the way around, because that is taking up way too much time. You can see we got across just in time as the train comes humming by. All right, so in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see our mini-map. Now, we've got field number 1, which you can see already has the grass on it. And then there's field number 2. Let's see, let's go ahead over to this corner. This is where I'm going to start building. So I'm going to go ahead and let this guy get started over here rather than over in the closest corner that we just came to. So we're going to get this guy started. Then we're going to head back to the shop, and we're going to pick up some more equipment. All right, let's see if we can get him turned here. Nope. So you can see we're not working with a lot of room between us and where we're going to need to be on the field. That train comes really close. So let's go ahead and back out. Let's look at the map, and let's just take a moment and see exactly what we're dealing with. So I believe it is, no, I thought it was canola. It must be barley. Yes, barley is on field number 2, which is perfectly fine. Okay, so the growth there, it's not ready to go. Field 3, however, is ready to go. And of course, field 1, if we had purchased it already, would also be ready to go. All right, so we're not quite there. We've got at least one more stage to get through before we're ready there. So we'll move over to field number 3 and get started on that. I wanted to start with field 2 simply because that's where we're going to be building. And it's nice to get that cleared out before we start building. But since that is, the timing is not right now, we'll simply come over to field 3. And if I can get this thing lined up, there we go. Let's go ahead and hire the worker. Let's make sure he gets off and running before we head on to take care of some other tasks. All right, so this guy should do a really good job. I've had good luck so far with the AI workers. I was particularly worried about the proximity to the railroad tracks, but it hasn't been an issue. They stay away from the railroad tracks for the most part, and I haven't had anybody get run over by the drain yet. So far, so good. Now, a great thing about these oats is that if you notice, we're getting the straw behind. We're going to need that. It's going to be very important for us to have that, really for 2 reasons. Number 1 is that it's going to be bedding for our horses, and number 2, it's going to give us plenty of extra straw in order to make a little extra money on the side. So that's our goal for right now. With that, let's go back to the map. And we're actually going to head back down here to the shop. Okay, let's go back in. Now, you can always use the shop menu, which for me is the P key. And it opens up this very same thing. But I kind of like going to the shop itself. All right, now we've gotten our harvester up and running. Now we need to pick up a tractor. Now I'm going to go for one of the basic medium tractors instead of a small tractor because I want to get something with a little bit more horsepower so that we can do some other things with it down the road, such as attaching mowers to it, multiple mowers to cover a wider area and that sort of thing. So I like this case model right here, the 7200 Pro Series. Again, the 98,000 is not really a big issue for us right now, but if you notice, the horsepower numbers on it are very nice. So that's going to be a good deal for us considering the price. 170 horsepower plus, we're going to be looking at a very nice engine upgrade as well. We can get up to 214. And if you notice, we go from 7,800 to 9,600. And of course, the other costs as well are increasing. But that's not enough to make me not go ahead and get the 214 horsepower. Again, just to give us plenty of room to do what we're going to need to do until we can get it into a flow and actually start to purchase our own equipment. All right, so it's going to cost us $9,600. Yes, we do want to go ahead and pick that up. And now our first purchase, as far as an attachment to the tractor, we're going to need a trailer. And we've got several different options here. I kind of like the HW80 here. It doesn't quite have the capacity, but capacity is not going to be an issue for us, particularly early on with the combines that we're going to be using. But the difference in price just isn't enough to go from $14,000 from $10,750. So we're going to go with this particular one. And then one of my favorite upgrades, the wheels. So we're going to go from your basic lizard wheels. We're going to go to, let's go to the Michigan. Look at that wide tire. I love the wide tire. Again, if you were with me in the Farming Sim 17 videos, you know I love the wide tire setup. So we're going to be going with the Michelin setup. Not terribly worried about the color, so we're going to go ahead and lease this. Only $744 for now. And we're still over $600,000 so far. Okay, and while we're here, let's go ahead and look at the mowers. Now, long term, I can tell you, I am looking at this guy as my mower long term. I use that in Farming Sim, or one very similar to that in Farming Sim 17, and then I believe 15 maybe as well, or 13. I can't remember what it was, but I absolutely love this mower, but it's quite expensive and certainly not a starter mower. So for right now, we're going to go ahead and pick up this 301 ED simply because it is our basic, and then later on we'll be coming back. Once we actually purchase field number 1, we'll come back and we'll get this as well so we can have a wider cutting area. But we're going to go ahead and get this while we're here, and that will max out the amount of equipment we're going to be able to carry from the shop at one time. So that's why I'm doing that. All right, let's go ahead and go around back. They don't give you a whole lot of room to work here before you run into the store, but just enough. Okay, let's go ahead and attach our mower, and we'll drop off our mower attachment up around field number 1 once we get back to the farm, since we won't be using it for a little bit. All right, so thankfully this guy goes a little bit faster than 15 or 16 miles an hour. He goes up closer to 30, 26 to 28 or somewhere in that range, I believe. Forgot exactly what it said on the information tab. But this will give us a few more pieces of equipment. And of course, here at the very beginning, I really want to, before we start setting up our horse farm and getting the enclosures and silos and that kind of thing, I really want to get field number 2. I want to go ahead and get it done and harvested so that I don't have to place buildings over the ready to harvest crop that's already there. Not really interested in doing that. That's certainly not what we want to do long term. We want to go ahead and get that money that we can make off of that. But our oats, we certainly want to get started with the oats. So it's going to be a little tricky here at the beginning because we're going to have really no place to put some of these things, and particularly with the oats versus the barley. So we'll have to end up selling most of it before we're able to get too far along. All right, so this is going by much quicker at 26 miles an hour versus roughly half that, which is what the combine was able to do. Very nice. I'm loving those tires. Very nice indeed. Of course, the wider tire should give you better traction as well, but I really, really like the look of that. All right, I'm trying to look at our combine over there just to make sure he's going. Yeah, it looks like he's going along just fine. The way the LODs work and the graphics work in this game, you can't see very much that is not right next to where you are. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to drop this. This is fairly close to the corner. Let's go ahead and drop that there. And we'll head over toward the combine. Remember, crop destruction. I'm going to have to continuously remind myself, and you can see here in the grass where we've worked our way around. This isn't such a big deal because we're not going to be probably mowing this for a little while. All right, well, we're not going to be able to catch him before he makes his way back down because I don't want to get on his left-hand side when he's coming back toward us. That will lead to more crop destruction. So let's hop inside with him. And you can see he's just over 50% full. And what I'm looking at is the indicator in the bottom right-hand corner. You've got the speedometer there. And then right to the left of it, you've got the amount and type of harvest that he has on board. And in this case, he's just over half full of that. So we'll let him go ahead. And in fact, let's hop inside with him. And we're going to follow him back down here. And then once he starts headed in the other direction, we'll go ahead and get him emptied. And that way we can move on about our other tasks that we're going to need to accomplish. All right, so let's see. Let's take a look around the interiors here. You can see kind of some low resolution textures there. I know YouTube doesn't do the game any justice with the way it compresses things, but I would like to see some higher resolution textures in some of these areas. Some of the things look quite nice all on their own, but others could use with an upgrade, in my opinion. But those are minor details to me. The biggest thing I'm worried about is the gameplay. How do we make money, and how do we make more money once we get going, as we can move up through some of the bigger equipment and make things more efficient. All right, so this guy's going to go down here and he's going to turn around. And this will give us our first opportunity to see just how these guys turn around and how the AI function when they get close to obstacles such as the railway. You can see he's going to back up and he's going to sort of make a wide arc and try to get himself lined up with where he needs to be and make best use of the space he has. So already you can see we've got a lot of straw to pick up. We won't need very much at all, but again, it could also be used as an additional source of income, however small that might be. All right, so without too terribly much trouble, he's going to be right where he needs to be, and he was really never in any danger from the train as far as I can tell. All right, so now that he is up and going, let's go ahead and pull over beside him. Let's see, it would probably help if I open up the cover for him. All right, here we go. So he's going to put those oats into the trailer, and he's not going to have anywhere close to enough to fill us up. So that is actually perfect for us. All right, so far so good. We're over 3,000 right now. And here in a moment, I would imagine he's going to run out. And then, yeah, there we go. It just happened. So now we're only getting what he is just now harvesting rather than what he had stored in the tank. But not bad. We're going to be a little, just under 4,400. Actually, a little over it by the time we get done. So we're going to move over here sort of out of the way. And we're going to park this guy. All right, and now I'm actually going to reset. We're going to reset our tractor. So that's why I went ahead and disconnected it. We're going to reset that. That's going to put it back to the shop. So now as I come back in, we've got our tractor back where we can pick up some additional implements. All right, so let's come back over to the storefront and let's get this thing opened up. And let's see, what else do we need? Well, we're going to need a loading wagon for sure. So let's go ahead and get that. We're just going to start out with the basic one here. We don't need a ton of capacity right now. So that'll be perfectly fine. And we're going to go ahead and lease that. Again, only $3,600 up front and not too terribly bad per day as well. So let's go ahead and lease that. Let's see what else that we might need. Of course, we're going to need, sowers and so on. So let's go ahead and look at those as well. Fertilizers, weeders, you name it. We need it all. And I'm going to try to get one that can plant the seed directly without cultivating as an extra step. That's really going to be helpful for us because it'll save us a step going forward. So I think we're going to go here. It's only a 3-meter working width, so it's not quite as much as I would prefer. I prefer when I can get into some of these bigger ones down in here, the Horsch or the Vanderstad. Either one of those will give us a much better working width. But for now, we're going to get a more basic one. Let's go ahead and click on that one. And again, no options to really worry about here. Fairly inexpensive, so we'll go ahead and get that. We are also going to need a plow. Where are, let's see, subsoilers. Can we use one of these? This one's got a fertilizer attachment on it. I like that. So a subsoiler prepares the field for the next sowing. It can be used instead of a plow. Okay, so this is a plow substitute, and of course we've got a fertilizer on top. 2 birds with 1 stone. I really like this. Again, fairly narrow working width, but that's okay. This is going to help us out with the plowing that we need to do. Okay, so we're looking good. We've actually got still just over $600,000 left. So let's go ahead and head back out and take a quick look at our equipment. So here you see our plow substitute, very nice, with our fertilizer attachment there on the back. Then we've got our seeder right here as well. Very nice looking models here. I really like the look of things. Not that it's terribly different from FS17, but I still really like these. And then of course our loading wagon that we're going to get dual use out of. Almost looked like we got a flat tire there. Just looking at that, looks like we could use some air in those tires. But this is going to have dual use for us. Number one, it's going to be great for picking up the hay once we have that prepared. But then beyond that, it's also going to pick up the straw for us. So dual use there, and I'm always happy when we can get that up and running. All right, let's go ahead and really don't have... let's go ahead and get the subsoiler. We'll go ahead and get our... I'm going to probably start calling that the plow is what I will likely end up doing, since that's the purpose it is serving for us. So let's go ahead and get this thing. Look at that. It's just a beautiful piece of equipment. And I can't wait for us to be able to make use of it, actually. I tell you what, hold on just a minute. I almost forgot to look at something. We're going to need to purchase some fertilizer. And for that, we're going to need to go under objects. And let's see, can we get it under bags, or we're going to have to go to pallets? Okay, there is a solid fertilizer. Okay, and that is the fertilizer type that we have. And then there's some lime there as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get the fertilizer. And we're only going to get one bag for right now. You can see it's got 1,000 liters in there. Let's go ahead and buy that. And we'll hold off about buying anything else as far as bags or fertilizers just for a little bit until we actually need them. But while I had the tool down here, I wanted to go ahead and get it. Let's see, where is this thing? Oh, it's going to be right over here in this corner. Let's see if I can get close enough to this thing. Refill cultivator, there we go. So it's going to go ahead and fill that up. You can see we can only hold 600 liters. So we're going to have 400 liters still remaining there in the bag. But the good news is, as long as the AI are able to use this equipment without any issues, we won't have to worry about refilling this thing, because the AI will simply buy the fertilizer as it's needed. And that's perfect for us, because right now we don't really have the extra money that I want to spend on a front-end loader or anything like that. I'm not really looking to be able to load pallets and move pallets around. So the fewer times we can have to come back and forth to the shop, the better off we're going to be. All right, just ahead of 9:30, so we got still plenty of daylight. And again, we're going to get a little bit more done in today's video. I don't want it to run too terribly long, but I do want to get as much done as we can here in our first episode, just to give you guys an idea of sort of the direction we're going here at the start of the game. And then we'll branch out from here. I am big into the animals. I love the cows, love working with the cows. We're going to see, maybe I'm going to love the horses to the point that I want to spend a lot of time doing those as well. I know they are very, very time intensive. They're not really a huge burden as far as resources, because, you know, the water and the straw are going to be non-issues. Those are very easy to come by from our fields nearby. But then you look at the oats, and of course we've got a field growing oats, and then the hay. That's not going to be really an issue there either. So not too terribly worried about the resources related to the horses. It's the time aspect of training them each and every day. In this particular scenario, it's going to be 5 minutes per horse per day. So if you try to get a lot of horses going, If you try to max out the 8 horses in the smaller enclosure, then it's going to take some serious time, and that's 5 minutes of real time, not game time. So it can get into some serious time management issues if you're not careful. All right, I'm really liking the look of our money situation right now. This is making me think that we might be able to go ahead and purchase field number 1. I say field number 1, the area around field number 1, I guess I should say. The area that includes field number 1. All right, let's go ahead and drop this off right there. Now we'll come back in, and if I can select, yeah, there's our tractor. So we've got it reset back to the shop so that we can save ourselves a little time. We'll come in and quickly check on the harvester, and you can see he's a little over 3,000 right now, so he's got plenty of capacity left, so no real worry there. All right, now we're going to pick up our seeder. All right, so our seeder, I actually need to, I tell you what, let's move some of this stuff out of the way, because what I'm going to need to purchase some seeds here as well. So again, just like with the fertilizer, we don't have to constantly come back and take care of that. Let's go ahead and get this guy, and once again we'll just sort of pull him up here out of the way, because now what I want to do is come in and purchase a bag of, or excuse me, a pallet of seeds. So let's go under, I think, wait a minute, maybe the seeds are under the big bags. I can never remember. Yeah, there we go. The basic seed bag. And again, now here you can see some of the bags specifically for the animals. We could purchase some oat bags. That would be perfectly fine. But for our purposes, we're going to go ahead and grow as much of this as we can. So there's a seed bag, and this contains all the seeds, and you can swap and use whichever ones you want. It's going to be the same 1,000 liters, so let's go ahead and buy that. There we go. Now we'll hop back in our tractor, and it should be, yeah, right over here next to our fertilizer. Let's see. Yes, I've already disconnected that, so we're good to go. We'll hop over to the seeder, and we'll do the same thing here like we did with the fertilizer. And that is very good timing for the train, because it's going to be gone by and well gone by the time we get back over to where we need to be. Now I'm going to go ahead before I forget, and I'm going to go ahead and select the seed. That's the Y key for me, and I'm going to select oats just so that I can get it done now, and hopefully I won't forget to double check that later on and make sure it's still doing that. Now very quickly here you can see the pallet, or the big bag, has disappeared, and we are nowhere near full. But again, because the AI is going to be doing this work for us, we're not going to have to worry about that. So hopefully we won't actually use any of that seed, but I do need to have some in there just in case it is needed a little bit later on. So 1,000 liters of seeds is certainly not anywhere near enough to fill this particular implement up, but it gets us started. But again, let's zoom in on this equipment. I'm really liking this. I like the shine that it's got to it, that brand new shine. Of course, it's going to start accumulating dirt as we start using it, and I'm bad about not washing the implements. So since it doesn't really have any effect on the performance with the dirt on there, then I generally don't worry too much about it, because for me, having some dirty equipment means that we must have been doing something. Oops, hit the wrong key, turned off the cruise control. So down in the bottom right hand corner, you can see not only the speedometer telling us that we're going 26 miles an hour, but you can also see the fitness of the tool itself, in this case the tractor. We're all the way into the high green since it is a new mower. And then you can also see to the right hand side of the speedometer the fuel gauge. And so we're using a little bit of fuel already just going back and forth. Again, one of those disadvantages to not necessarily being very close to the store. There are certainly a lot of good things to say about being close to the store. Particularly until you can get something like Courseplay that you can set routes from the store to your particular area. All right, you also notice that we just got a message saying that our harvester is almost full. He's at 80% right now. Look at that, perfect timing. Just as the bars come up, we're going to be ready to go right through there. Perfect timing, I like it. Now we probably will not be using the train very much, if any, but I don't know of a way to turn it off, and I kind of like the environment, the atmosphere that it creates with it being here, so I'm actually okay with it coming around, even though sometimes it kind of gets in our way. All right, let's head up, and we're gonna reconnect our trailer because we need to get this guy taken care of. Hopefully by the time we get ready, get everything hooked up and get to him, he will be ready to give us plenty of the oats. And that way he can spend as little time stopped as possible. There we go. So once again, he's got a little ways to go. So we'll give him a little bit of time. And if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner to the mini map, you can see he's not quite halfway, but he's getting very close to halfway done. So whenever we get this load from him, we'll have a fairly good idea of just what type of yield we're going to get for this very first harvest on the land. Let's don't get too close to him. I want to give him plenty of room to get turned around. But again, so far I'm impressed with the AI behavior. We'll see how that goes moving on. The AI in this game are known to have some weird quirks about them, but that's okay with me because, hey, I got some weird quirks in my behavior too, so I fit right in. All right, so you can see for the most part he makes a nice turn. Now, if he were harvesting in the other direction, then maybe that turn wouldn't be so good. If he was still turning the same direction, because he would be destroying some of the crops. But for right now, this is working out just fine. So let's go ahead and make our way up next to him. All right, there we go. Pipe comes out. Oh wow, let's get that camera moved. I do not like the collision on the camera. That was one of my favorite mods for FS17, was to disable the collision on the camera. Alright, we're actually going to be very close to full, if not full, by the time he's done here. So that is going to be very interesting, actually. Yes, we're going to be right on it. In fact, okay, we've now caught up with him. His tank is empty. So I'm going to try to hang with him just a little bit. And so we're almost full. 10,305 is very nice. Let's go ahead and actually I'm going to go ahead and change the tip side from the left. And I'm going to change it over to the right. Because I believe that's where I'm going to need to use it. And we're going to close the cover. For now, we're going to disconnect from that. And we're going to reset once again back to the shop. Okay, let's go ahead and reset. Wait, let's go back. Okay, he stopped there for a moment and it scared me. I thought maybe he wasn't going to continue on. So we're in good shape. All right, so now you see we've got the one bag left. That would be the fertilizer. And there we go. Let's get our loading wagon hooked up. And I tell you what, hold on just a second. While I am here, let's go ahead and look at some fertilizers. We got one fertilizer that is attached to our plow substitute, our subsoiler. So let's see what other types of fertilizers we have. Let's see, where are the fertilizers in here? Let's see, we've got Cedars fertilizer technology. There we go. And let's see, now we don't want one of these. These are nice, huge capacities, but of course capacity is going to be a different issue for us entirely. Let's see, 3,200, 700, wow. But a 15-meter spread, 24-meter spread. All right, I kind of like this one. The mod version is only $4,000 though, so that is pretty nice. And generally, with this type of working width, time is not really an issue that you're worried about with fertilization. So I think what I'm going to do here is just pick the cheaper option for us. And we're going to go ahead and lease that. So that mod did, in fact, come in handy. Not because we didn't have another option to choose, but it was by far the cheaper option for us. And if memory serves me correctly, I can simply come in here and I'm going to go ahead and disconnect for just a moment. But if memory serves me correctly, I should be able to come in here and attach this to the front. If I can't, then that's going to be something else I'll have to deal with, but I think I can. Let's see, is it going to... No, it didn't line it up like everything else does. It actually lined it up the way I need. All right, here we go. So let's see if this is going to work out for me. Yeah, there we go. And while we're here, let's go ahead and refill. So that will get rid of our fertilizer bag. But both of our fertilizers are not full, but at least have some in them to get us started. All right, there we go. Because we're going to need to do multiple fertilizations along the way. So we're probably going to end up needing this fertilizer attachment as we move along. So I'm excited to have that on board. And again, we'll just see how it all works. I'm not sure how the weeders work as far as can we fertilize while we're doing that. So who knows? With this attachment on the front, we've got that problem taken care of. We can attach the weeder or anything else to the back, and we can perform two functions at one time, which will make great use of our time. So I think we've gotten quite a bit done in today's episode. Run a little bit longer than I had planned to, but I have so much fun playing this game and doing these videos with you guys that sometimes I get carried away and go a little bit longer than I had planned. So I think that's going to do it for today. We'll come back next time and we'll continue our work in setting up our farm. Hopefully next time we'll actually get a chance to start putting out the horse enclosure and get that paddock taken care of, along with a silo and maybe some water storage. So we'll get into some of the more permanent aspects of our farm next time. But for now, thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned as we will continue our gameplay series of Farming Simulator 19.